The XB-70 Valkyrie, first flown over 40 years ago, was a technological marvel. It could reach speeds of Mach 3 and fly as high as 77,000 feet. Once designed to be the most advanced bomber ever built, the aircraft was canceled and later placed in a museum after being deemed obsolete due to the development of surface-to-air and intercontinental ballistic missiles. The XB-70 program began in 1955, when the U.S. Air Force wanted a new long-range bomber that could fly at extremely high altitudes and reach speeds up to Mach 3, 3 times the speed of sound. This new bomber was meant to replace the slower B-52 and take advantage of the latest aerospace technology of the 1950s and 60s. North American then came up with a unique design, a 3-part aircraft with detachable outer wings that could be dropped to reach higher speeds. After refining their proposal to meet new Air Force requirements, North American's updated design was approved in December 1957. A development contract followed the next month, and the aircraft officially became known as the B-70 Valkyrie in early 1958. To build a bomber capable of traveling 12,000 kilometers at Mach 3, engineers at North American Aviation used a principle called compression lift. Compression lift happens when a conical structure under the center of a wing pushes air out to the sides. This builds up pressure under the wing, which gives the plane a lot more lift, way more than a normal wing would. Because of this, the plane doesn't need a huge wing, which would normally cause a lot of drag. The XB-70 was specifically designed to take advantage of this. At supersonic speeds, it basically rode its own shockwave, using that extra lift. The conical body underneath the center of the wing became a giant pod, slightly triangular when viewed from the bottom, which held 6 engines, a bomb bay, and landing gear. The outer 20-foot sections of the wings were hydraulically pivoted downward at supersonic speeds to trap and literally ride the high-pressure shockwave that was generated. And it also cut down drag from the engine inlet and wing shockwave. Overall, compression lift became about 30% more effective because the pressure under the wing was controlled better. When the XB-70 took off, the wingtips were straight. At subsonic cruising speeds, they would be lowered to 25 degrees and above Mach 1.4 to 65 degrees. The folding wingtips allowed smaller vertical stabilizers to be used, and also compensated for the delta wing's backwards shift in its center of lift as speed increased, thus reducing trim drag. The XB-70 was a massive and stunning aircraft, easily one of the most beautiful planes ever built. It had a huge delta wing that spanned 105 feet and was swept back at 65.5 degrees. This wing was attached to a long, slim fuselage, with 2 small canard wings positioned just behind the cockpit on either side. Along the trailing edge of the big delta wing were several elevons, which helped control the aircraft. Each canard measured 415.6 square feet and could move completely to adjust the plane's trim. They also had flaps on the trailing edges that could be lowered when needed. At the rear, 2 vertical stabilizers were placed on either side of the engine exhausts, which sat at the very center of the back of the plane. From nose to tail, including the pitot tube, the XB-70 measured 185 feet long, stood 30 feet tall, and had an enormous maximum takeoff weight of 542,000 pounds. Flying at Mach 3 brought serious heat challenges. At those speeds, the friction of air rushing past the aircraft caused intense heating. The nose and leading edges could reach up to 330 degrees Celsius, while the rest of the body stayed around 232 degrees Celsius. To survive that kind of heat, the XB-70's structure was made from stainless steel, honeycomb panels, and titanium. The honeycomb panels themselves were incredibly thin, just 0.508 millimeter, but they were brazed together for strength and heat resistance. Titanium was a very expensive metal back in the 1960s, and also difficult to work with, so it was only used where absolutely necessary, mainly in the areas that faced the most heat. Actually, only around 9% of the Valkyrie was made from titanium. Using a mix of stainless steel and titanium actually made the XB-70 cheaper than some other advanced aircraft of its time, like the Lockheed SR-71. Still, cheaper is relative. Each XB-70 prototype cost around $750 million. 6 General Electric YJ93-GE-3 turbojet engines that each delivered around 30,000 pounds of thrust and afterburner powered the Valkyrie. Because of the smart layout, any one of these engines could be swapped out in just a few hours. All 6 were mounted side by side in the big underwing pod at the rear of the plane. 2 large rectangular inlet ducts supplied 2-dimensional airflow. Inside the intakes, a series of variable ramps known as the Air Induction Control System expanded and contracted to control airflow to the engines and protect them from the powerful shock of supersonic air. The system sensed small pressure changes during flight and slowed the incoming supersonic air to subsonic speeds at the engine faces. The XB-70 used a tricycle-type landing gear setup, with each main gear having 4 wheels and the nose gear having 2. To help slow the aircraft, 3 large brake parachutes were deployed. After landing without them, the XB-70 would have needed more than 11,000 feet of runway to stop. A single weapons bay between the engine ducts and engines could carry groups of nuclear bombs. The bay had doors which slid open automatically at the last moment before weapon release. Designing an airframe to withstand Mach 3 heat alone wasn't enough to keep it cool. To help manage the extreme temperatures, the aircraft's fuel was used to absorb heat from the airframe. The heated fuel was then routed into the engines and burned, leaving the relatively cooler fuel behind. However, even this cooler fuel was still so hot that if just 2% of oxygen mixed with it, it could ignite instantly. To prevent this, inert nitrogen gas was used to fill the space vacated by the fuel. By 1960, intercontinental ballistic missiles were entering service and seen as the future of strategic warfare. Less vulnerable and easier to operate than bombers. His final year, President Eisenhower decided the Valkyrie program made little military sense, as missiles would soon replace bombers, and budget pressures from a recession pushed him to cut costs. Assembly of the first XB-70A was eventually completed in mid-1963, but solving a fuel leak problem took another 18 months. Finally, on 11 May 1964, the first XB-70 was rolled out of its hangar at North American's Palmdale, California facility. Its maiden flight took place on September 21, 1964. The XB-70 was meant to break the sound barrier, but couldn't due to a hydraulic failure that kept the landing gear from retracting. It landed safely, though a small hydraulic fire caused minor damage. On its third supersonic attempt on the 12th of October, 1964, the Valkyrie broke the sound barrier at Mach 1.1. It then set several world records, including 40 minutes of sustained supersonic flight on the 24th of October, 1964, and 60 minutes on the 4th of March, 1965. By its 10th flight, the Valkyrie sustained 74 minutes of supersonic flight, including 50 minutes above Mach 2. While flying at Mach 2.58 on 7th May 1965, the Valkyrie's horizontal intake splitter was torn away, with debris destroying all the engines. Remarkably, the aircraft still landed safely. The failed honeycomb splitter was later replaced with a single, solid unit. After 17 flights, Valkyrie reached Mach 3 on 14th October 1965, but 2 feet of wing leading edge was torn away. Due to structural concerns, Valkyrie was then limited to a maximum speed of Mach 2.5. NASA wind tunnel tests showed that airframe changes could greatly improve the XB-70. North American built the second aircraft, with 5-degree wing dihedral, a stronger skin, an improved hydraulic system, and automatic AICS, which greatly improved handling. Second aircraft first flew on July 17, 1965, reaching Mach 1.4. It reached Mach 3 for the first time on January 3, 1966, and, on May 19th, flew at Mach 3 for 33 minutes and Mach 2.5 for a total of 62 minutes. Around this time, NASA and the Air Force agreed to use the second XB-70 for high-speed research supporting the supersonic transport program. Second XB-70 was chosen for its improved aerodynamics, inlet controls, hydraulic systems, and advanced instrumentation. It was also fitted with over $50 million in extra data recording equipment, mainly in the former weapons bay, to monitor body flex, flutter, and airframe pressures during supersonic flight, as well as to study typical SST flight profiles. The XB-70 Valkyrie proved ideal for SST research. It matched the projected SSTs in size and used similar materials like brazed stainless steel honeycomb and titanium. As a result, the XB-70A's role shifted from a bomber prototype to one of the most remarkable research aircraft ever flown. On 8th June, XB-70 took off early for a test flight and flew over NACA recording instruments at Mach 1.4. The aircraft then joined a formation with an F-4, F-5, T-38, NASA F-104N Starfighter, and a Learjet. All were powered by General Electric engines, and the Learjet carried photographers for a publicity shoot. The photo session lasted about 40 minutes and ended around 9:35 a.m. As the photo shoot ended and the formation began to separate, disaster struck. The F-104N moved too close to the XB-70's right wingtip and was caught in powerful wingtip vortices, flipping onto the Valkyrie's back. The inverted starfighter tore through the Valkyrie's tail, destroying most of it and damaging the left wing. The starfighter crashed into the desert, killing its pilot instantly. The Valkyrie flew straight for about 16 seconds before entering 2 slow rolls and then an unrecoverable flat spin. One crew member ejected and survived with serious injuries, while the other was killed when the aircraft struck the ground. The surviving pilot later returned to flight status, but never flew the XB-70 again. After the crash, the remaining XB-70 was modified with an improved ejection system, better brakes, and upgraded test instrumentation, similar to crashed aircraft. Remaining XB-70 did not fly again until 3 November 1966. NASA began XB-70 research flights on 25 April 1967, completing 12 more by March 1968. The highest speed reached during this phase was Mach 2.57. During NASA testing, the XB-70 flew various Mach numbers and altitudes over Edwards Air Force Base as part of the National Sonic Boom program. Tests showed that large supersonic aircraft could generate shockwaves strong enough to cause structural damage. Because the surviving Valkyrie could not safely reach Mach 3, the Air Force withdrew, leaving the program to NASA. With more capable aircraft like the SR-71 available, NASA ended XB-70 testing. The final, 83rd flight took place on the 4th of February 1969, when the XB-70 flew to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where it remains on display today. The XB-70 was a remarkable achievement that advanced high-speed flight research. Its data influenced later aircraft designs and helped end the US SST program by proving the high cost and impact of sustained supersonic flight. In total, the 2 XB-70s flew 129 flights and over 250 hours, securing the Valkyrie's lasting place in aviation history.